How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we take the plunge. That's right, the plunge into making this car look like this. Now, everything you're going to see in this video, I will have a how-to video in the how-to playlist. And that starts from drilling and tapping, to figuring out what the color of the car is, to stripping the car's paint, to painting the car and all that stuff. So if you're looking for a specific step that you haven't done yet or you want to know more about, take a look in the playlist and it might just be in there. If not, drop a link, drop a comment in the comment section below and I'll take care of it. We'll see if we can't get one up for you. But I'm not going to start with this car. I'm going to start with a 1970 Dodge Challenger. We're going to take it completely apart. I'm going to show you step by step in this video. We're going to be using rattle can paint to show you that you can get good quality paint results with rattle cans. And I will explain in a future video the difference between the rattle can and the airbrush, because I also have the airbrush. But for this particular one, it's just learning the process. And I strongly recommend, if you have a car that you really want to do and do right, start with a cheap one. Even if you just walk in the store and just grab a random one off the peg, start with a random one. That way you can hone your skills and not mess up the one that you really want to do. Because messing up one that you really want to do is disheartening. So we're going to take it from beginning to end. So let's get started. So here we go. This is the car we're going to start with. 1970 Dodge Challenger. I picked this one and this other Mustang up because I wanted to practice my skills. So we're going to drill these apart and get the Challenger into the paint stripper. Here we're going to pick out our drill bit. Now it takes a 3/16, but I'm going to use one that's a little bit smaller than that because I don't have the 3/16 here, but that's what we're going to use. And you can see the taps. These on the modern cars already have the dimples and stuff in them real good. But we're going to start off with the 3/16, and then we're going to find one that matches almost perfectly to hit the size of the rivet. We don't want to go bigger, but we actually want to be a little smaller. And what we're going to be using is a 1/74 or 256 tap, depending on what we're going for. Here you can see I'm checking the size. That fits perfectly. I think this is a 5/64. But a 3/16 is the actual size you need. And then we keep looking, and we'll pick out one, like I said, that fits the size of the mushroom part of the pop rivet with a little bit of room to spare, and then we will use that to finish it off and get it apart. Now I recommend when you put your drill bit in that you don't leave it sticking out all the way like this, because if you get in a little bit of a bind and you go in at an angle or something, if you put any undue pressure on this, right, trying to work it, like if you get your punch a little off center and you're trying to work it, these are so small that they will actually break. It will actually bend in the middle. So I actually recommend going in almost, go all the way in and leave almost about a 1/2 inch out, just like this, and this will work perfectly. So let's get to it. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to try to drill all the way through at one time. We're just going to drill for a second, try to keep the drill as straight as we can, and drill it, back off, check it, drill it, back off, check it. Because we're not trying to do this all at one time, because if you notice that you're going off the side of the post or off the side of the rivet, you can change it at this time. You just want to drill in nice and slow until you get to where the rivet, the hole is below the body of the car, below the base of the car. Once you get that, we're going to flip it over and do the other side, or the other end, however you want to look at it. Again, slow as your friend. Now once you get to where you think you're deep enough, we're going to swap the bits. And again, we're going to stick it in and leave as little as we can sticking out. Even though this is a bigger bit, we're still going to practice the same methodology. That way we get used to doing it every single time, because you don't want to be stuck waiting on a bit. Now a good little drop of oil on these posts will make drilling and tapping so much easier. It helps, number one, dissipate the heat, but number two, it actually pulls the shavings out of the way. So we're going to swap bits, and we're going to drill this one the same way. Slow and easy. We're not going to get in any rush, because if you mess up now and drill it too big or go off and mess up the base of the car, you're either just going to have to live with it, or you're going to have to try to find another donor base, or you're going to have to try to find another car altogether. Now that you have it to where you think you have it drilled far enough, you're going to take something small, like a small flathead screwdriver, and just kind of wedge it in there and pry. And as you can see, it just pops right up. Now if you're having difficulty, don't be scared. Take your drill bit, your bigger one, and drill a little bit more of the metal out, but don't be scared. It's not as hard as you think it is. But now that you have it drilled out, you can take the car apart. And as you can see, there's not a lot to this particular model. You got the body, the glass, and the interior, and of course the wheels. And that's what we're going to start with. Now you can see I've got me a new jar because this is my first one. I'm going to put my paint thinner in it. And for this particular for this particular job, I am using a product called Citrus Strip. It doesn't have any toxic fumes, it doesn't stink, it doesn't smell bad, it doesn't make your house smell bad. Plus, this particular product, you can just drop the car in, leave it a day or two and come back, and it will not hurt the car. As a matter of fact, the longer you leave it in there, the easier it is to get the paint off. But here you can see I'm filling up a new jar, using a new bottle. You can get this stuff for $19.99 at Lowe's, or you could order it Home Depot, whatever you want to do. But here we are, the moment of truth. We're going to take our car and we're going to drop it in. And since I live in North Carolina, this is going to be known as the North Carolina Red Clay. So we're going to just take it, we're going to drop it in, and watch her sink to the bottom. It doesn't take but a second. But it's a oddly strange feeling when you drop this in and watch it go down, because it's hard to explain unless you do it yourself. But just sitting here watching it sink, it's just it is so cool, and I can't put my finger on it, but it's actually fun to watch. But you drop it down in there and say bye to it. But the car is now sunk. We're going to put the lid on it, we're going to set it over to the side, and for this particular one, we're going to come back in 24 hours and see how it does. Alright, here we go. Got me something to set it on when we take it out. It's been 24 hours later. Let's see how well this actually worked. Take our hemostats, feel around for it. Feels like it right there. Oh yeah, you can see the paint stuff coming off right there. Let some of the excess drip off. Paint is just falling off of it. Now let's take this into the bathroom and rinse it off and see what we have. Alright, now are you ready to see something really cool? I thought I was going to have to hit this with a brush, or got my brass brush ready to go in case, there's some left on it. I'll still hit it with it, but this is straight out of the Citrus Strip, and did nothing but rinse it off with hot water. Look at that. It took every bit of it off. Still got to rinse a little bit right there, but just look at that. Oh my goodness. I thought I was going to have a lot of brushing to do and everything, which I guess on some of the older models and stuff I would have. But man, look at that. I mean, I have done nothing but hit this with just hot water. No scrubbing, no nothing. And after hitting it with a wire brush, the brass brush, this is what we come up with. It actually puts a pretty cool shine on it, and it turned out very nice. Now here you can see I just stuck the body back together with everything. It actually looks pretty cool, and if you wanted to clear coat it and leave it as is, that would look pretty good. Or you can polish it and make it really shine and then clear coat it. But we're not going to do that for the purposes of this video. We are actually going to prime and paint this bad boy. So stay tuned for the next part. Now, just like before, we're going to go ahead and finish drilling out the post so that we can tap it and get the screws in there. You really want to take care of this way before you ever paint your project, because if you don't, it's very, very, very easy to screw up the paint on your cars. But we've got it done. We've got it drilled. We've got it tapped. We've got the screws in it. Now let's give it a final once over. We're going to hit it with some steel wool to kind of give it a little bit of a shine. Not that it's necessary, but this just helps remove any leftover paints, any leftover anything that's on it, like dust or stuff that was stuck to the casting, anything like that. But we're just going to lightly go over it. This is 4/0 steel, or when you go to look in the stores for it, it's 4 zeros as far as how fine or how coarse it is. It's just 4/0 steel wool, lightly going over the car, as I said, and you know, just touching up anywhere we like to, like we want to, if we see anything, what I'm trying to say, God. But I always try to run my steel wool the same on the sides, the tops. So if I have to go side to side on the tops or anything, I always try to finish up by following, just if you imagine it as the airflow goes, and that way if there's anything that does show up, at least it will all be the same, and it will be really hard for you to recognize it. But it's just something that I learned a long time ago by doing woodworking and by doing polishing on cars and stuff. Now we're going to give it a once over, make sure that's how we want it. And you know, just visualize what we want to do to it. If there's any more changes that we want to do right now, like I thought about making that front splitter a little longer or more pronounced, but I decided against it. And here I'm looking at the back of the car and I'm thinking, I think that the back end needs something. So let's break out the polystyrene. I'm going to take the car, I'm going to set it on here and kind of line up where I think the best place to put it and cut it is. And I want to get the overall shape of the car, the rear of the car in it, so that's why I'm standing it up like this and doing this. But I'm just going to take a pencil and go over it. Just a general rough shape of the car. Then we'll cut it out. And you can use whatever you have. This is a really thin styrene that I'm using, so I can cut this with scissors, but most of the time you either have to cut it with a razor knife or something along those lines. And I actually have a industrial type paper cutter where you can stick a whole stack of papers on there, raise the arm up and pull down on it and it cuts it. So if I ever need to, I can use that. But for this, no, just a pair of scissors. Now that we have the size and everything, we're going to cut out the actual shape. And once you get it scored, it pretty much you can break it off. You hit it once or twice with the razor knife and it'll break right off. Now I'm just looking at it and see how the fitment looks. See if I really want to do this. See if I like the idea of it. If not, I can change it now or do away with it, whatever I want to do. But I'm going to take out the file because I don't have it cut exactly to the lines and everything, and the shape isn't exactly the way I want it. So I'm just going to use the files, you know, 1 or 2 different ones, flatten it out, round the edges of it a little bit so that it has kind of, like I said, that shape of the car. And just do, you know, trial and error fitments until I get it like I want it. Now once we get it, we're going to use some super glue. I'm personally going to use the gel, but you can use whatever you like. I use the gel because it doesn't run. But I'm just going to put a little dab on the back of the cardboard here and take the toothpick. And I'm actually going to use the toothpick to apply it. And the reason I'm doing that is because the toothpicks, you can put stuff on there so much more finite, or finer if you will, and get it exactly where you want it. And it just doesn't leave a mess. It doesn't leave any extra glue to squish out or run all over your project or anything. So using a toothpick for stuff like that is very handy. Now we just take the splitter that we made, or a rear spoiler rather, and position it on there carefully where we want it. And once we get it on there, apply a little pressure, and it's done. It's stuck. That's simple. Now we have a very nice pronounced rear spoiler. Now we're going to take this opportunity while that's drying to pop out these factory wheels, because these are not the ones that we're going to leave on here. We're not going to get rid of them. We'll save them. Always save your wheels, because you never know when you're going to need a nice factory looking set of wheels. But it's just held on by 3 tabs, and you pry those 3 tabs out, or at least one of the tabs, and they'll come right off. And in here I'm going to trim off those tabs, because I'm going to have to make an axle tube for the wheels that I'm going to put on, because the wheels that I'm using are so much wider than, or the axle that I'm using is so much wider than this car. I'm going to have to cut the axle down. So now we just take the axle tube that you can buy at Hobby Lobby, and we're going to put it in and get the size that we need. Take our Sharpie marker. Once we get our 10 thumbs out of the way, take our Sharpie marker, mark it to the side of the chassis, the wheel opening, and then once we get it marked, we can then cut it. They actually make a tubing cutter that you can buy at Hobby Lobby. Now we've got the rear air dam spoiler, wicker bill if you will, all dried. A little fine adjustment as far as sanding and filing to get it to fit exactly like we want to. And you know, when we do these types of projects, don't get in a hurry. Just take your time and get it exactly how you want it. And that way, the end project, if it's messed up, you have nobody to blame but yourself. And if you take your time during these little small steps, these little small procedures, you won't be unhappy with yourself, believe me. But we're just lining it up, making sure that it's the shape that we want. And if not, we take the file tool or the sandpaper, whatever we need, and just work on it. But it's all trial and error, trial and fit. You do a little bit, you stop. You do a little bit, you stop. Then you test fit everything. Make sure everything fits. Make sure it's the look you're going for. And you know, you just, before you do anything final, like final assembly or gluing or anything, now is the time to see if everything's going to fit right. If it's the look that you was really going for. And just like right there, I seen a little slither of the plastic sticking off the polystyrene, and if I would have just went ahead and painted it, it could have ruined the paint job and we would have had to start all over. But once we're happy, we can move on to the next step. And just one final time, I go back over it with the steel wool just to make sure that it's the way that I want it. You know, like I said, the devil's in the details. Take your time, do the things the way you want them done, and make sure it's right. because once it's done, it's done. There is no turning back unless you strip the whole thing back down and do it all again. But you can see the steel wool gives it a nice shine. So now let's get this bad boy painted. Now as you can see, we're outside. Got the rattle can primer, right? And you want to shake it up really good for, 30 seconds or so, which I've already done and I'm going to continue to do. But we've got the car out. As you can see, it's all nice and dry. It looks really good. It's warm to the touch. The paint can is warm to the touch. So we're ready to go. It's a little bit breezy outside, and I don't recommend doing this in the breeze, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. But what you want to do is you don't want to try to coat the whole thing at one time. You want to do it in what's called tack coats. In other words, a light coating, just a quick, and you want to kind of hold it about this far apart, 8 to 10 inches I recommend. And we're not trying to paint the whole thing at one time. We're just trying to give it a light misting, and then we'll come back and do it again until it's completely covered, and then we'll do the paint the same way. But if you do too much too fast, you'll get runs, you'll start losing body panel lines like that door gap and everything. It'll just disappear. So here we go, just light coats, like I say, just a quick coat off screen, off camera, and then just come and hit it really, really lightly. Not trying to cover the whole thing at one time. And that's all we're going to do for this coat. But it'll take, for a couple minutes for this to tack up, and then we'll come back out and hit it again. As you can see, it's already starting to flatten, so that's showing you that it's drying. But we're going to take this back inside, dust-free environment, let it dry, hit it again, let it dry for about 5 or 10 minutes, then hit it with the paint. While I'm waiting on this to dry, this will go back into the warm water until we are done using it. Alright, as you can see, it's starting to take shape, it's starting to take color, but it's dry to the touch. Remember, light coats is your friend. Just really, really light coats. And that's enough for that. Alright, so we have this bad boy. What do I want to do to it next? Still got to do the headlights, the front splitter. The wicker bill turned out really nice. Still got to do the tail lights. What do I want to do next? I have some of this left over from when I did a bow tie. So what do you guys think? Let's look at it and see what we think. It may work, it may not. I don't know. Don't know till you look at it, right? It's a little bit big, but with that said, what the heck, you only live once. So, what do you think? I think I'm gonna go with it. What the heck? Let's get it sized out. Alright, let's get this bad boy figured out here. Overall, it needs to be 1 inch, about 3/4, about 7/8. 1 inch, 3/4, 7/8. That should be it right there. think that's going to look pretty good. I know that it's big and everything, but I don't have a printer to print it out smaller, so we're just going to go with it. Let me get a little bit of water and stick on here. Got me some water or Q-tip. Get a rag in case we spill any water. All the water's for is to help us move it around. Then once we get it, we just take the Q-tip, squeegee the water out, work it out toward the corners, the edges. Now if for some reason it doesn't want to lay flat on you, like if it gets a bubble or something in it, take a hairdryer and heat it up real lightly, and that will make it lay flat. But look how that looks. I just made that look so much different. Wow. Now if you remember right, there's a opening for a hood scoop right there. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our knife and try to put an X in it. So all we're doing is try to put a little X in it. That way we can take it and fold those pieces in and stick them on the underneath. Just like such. Now I've got the screws out of it. Take the Q-tip and run around the hole, the hard part. Make sure it's pushed down all the way. And make sure it goes back in like such. Look at that. Beautiful fit. Beautiful fit. So now I can paint that or do whatever I'm going to do to it. Now let's do a little bit of touch-up paint. I was thinking about painting the interior, but since the wheels are red, I'm going to leave the interior red. But I am going to paint that hood scoop and the grill. So, let's see how this goes. Don't need much. Flat black. Just like that, there's the hood scoop. When that dries, that will be a nice flat black. Now while I have the black out, I'm going to go ahead and paint the steering wheel. Just the wheel itself, not the post or anything. You'll never see it, but what the heck, while we've got it apart. Paint the steering wheel black. Now I didn't want to go ahead and do this and this right yet. I want to go ahead and do the small stuff and then come back to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this with the orange or amber. I'm going to hit the sides with the amber. Then I'm going to hit the headlights, and then I'm going to do the tail lights and then the spoilers, and then we'll be done with this bad boy. Alright, this is the actual color of amber. Just going to use a Q-tip, right? Then we'll get in there ever so easily and just dot it. Alright, so we've got the front markers, we've got the side markers. Now let's do the back. Get it where we can see it. Now we've got those painted up. Not perfect, but for what we're doing is pretty good. Get a little bit of paint thinner or acetone on Q-tip, touch up what we don't want red, and move on to the rear side markers. Still got to do them, and then the spoilers. Now we're going to do the headlights. And they're little. Just a dab, doesn't have to be perfect. There's the headlights done. And anybody that knows anything about these cars knows that that gas cap has to be silver. Has to be, it's mandatory. So silver it is. As you can see, the car is starting to take shape. Got the headlights done, I've got the front markers done, got the side markers done, got the tail lights done. There's still a little bit of red right there where I accidentally touched it. But that's okay. Now we've got to do the spoiler, the front air dam. Got to do that. And we forgot to do the grill on this. So let's touch that up with flat black real quick. And as you can see, I've got the gauges painted now. I made one little mistake right there, but that's okay. This is my first one, and I need to get the magnifying glasses and everything so I can see, hold it, and, you know, have a third hand. That's okay. I will get one of those. They sell them at Hobby Lobby for like 14 bucks, so I'll get one eventually. But that takes care of all I'm going to do to the interior. I think it looks pretty good. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and paint this shifter black now that I look at it. I'm going to paint it black. Just a little dab. Like I said, you'll never ever see this anyway. But it's one of those things that just makes it that much fun, alright? You know it's there. And now it's painted black. I don't know if you can see that or not. We've got the gauges silver, the steering column silver, the steering wheel black, and the shifter's black. Flat black for the hood scoop, flat black for the front grille, and we're going to call that interior finished. Now all we got to do is let everything dry, and then we'll come back and put it together. Well, there we are. There's the very first one I've done. I don't think it turned out too shabby at all. What do you guys think? I've done a lot to it. We stripped it down from the original color. I changed out the wheels to put the red ones on there because I wanted it to match the interior. And then we painted the headlights. We painted the front spoiler. We added the rear spoiler. Painted the back end of it. I know the tail lights aren't perfect, but hey, it is what it is, right? Painted the door handles, the turn signals, the gas cap. Overall, I think it turned out really nice. Learned a lot from it, and can't wait to do the next one. I actually think the carbon fiber wrap on the hood actually turned out pretty dang good. I've seen people print it out before on a printer. I just don't think the printed one looks that good. I think this looked, to my opinion, a little bit better. What do you guys think? What would you have done differently? By all means, leave comments and stuff in the comment section below. What would you like to see built in the future? I've got a lot of things planned, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a long one, but like I said, it's my first one. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next build. Thank you so very much for watching.